This is the PMBC meeting for February 8th, 2023. Welcome. This is a recorded meeting. We do not have a warrant tonight, so we will skip over to the meeting minutes from January 25th. If everyone's had a chance to look at the amended minutes that I sent out this morning, any comments? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Bob Rumley.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Stacy seconds. All in favor? Bob?
Bob Rumley, yes.
Mike?
Mike Scaduto, yes.
Stacy?
Stacy Scott, yes.
Bartlett?
Bartlett, yes.
And Brian?
Brian Pasquale, yes.
Oh yeah, and me. Yes. So we'll move over to the Shaker Lane feasibility study. Steve is with us and he's only got a few minutes, so it's all yours, Steve.
So good evening. So thanks for having me. So it's really just a quick update. There's actually not much to update. We have submitted everything MSBA asked for as part of the phase one feasibility, the eligibility period. All the paperwork, the maintenance information, the enrollment information, the curriculum. So all of that information is in. We are waiting for MSBA to review those documents and then really invite us to the next phase. Part of that process is we will be invited to attend the MSBA board meeting, which is not until April. I think it's April 24th. I'd have to confirm that date, but it's far enough away. And that's when we believe we will be invited into the next phase, which is the feasibility stage. And once we're invited in and it gets approved by the board, I'm sure there'll be some legal paperwork we have to fill out with MSBA, and then we can start the OPM search because we do the OPM first and then we'll do the feasibility study. So that we're kind of still in limbo at this point in time with MSBA, but we haven't heard anything negative from them. That is, they haven't been calling us asking lots of questions on what we've submitted. So we're assuming that everything is okay on that behalf, and now we're just waiting for the official invite to the board meeting. So that's really, it's just a quick update.
Who's going to attend the board meeting?
It's usually the superintendent, myself, probably Anthony, and probably Ryan will attend. Usually during the day, I believe. Yeah,
I've been to them before. If it's appropriate, I'd like to get an invite if I have time.
We will, once we get that, we will invite all the members on the Shaker Lane Building Committee. Yep.
Okay.
We'll make sure we do that.
Yep. Yeah, they're right downtown there, so it's not too far from my office.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So.
Well, I think they still hold them virtually, I believe.
Oh, do they?
I believe so, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. If they want us to come in person, then we'll do that too. I just don't have those details yet.
And what was the date?
I believe it's April 24th, but don't quote me on that. That's not official.
Okay, yeah, we don't go back to in person until May sometime, right? Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Steve? All right. Well, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next meeting.
What's that?
I said Steve's got the next meeting.
He's got the next meeting?
Yeah, he's got a meeting at 7:30.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Oh, Steve, actually, I do just have one question. Have we set a date yet for the Shaker Lane Building Committee to get together yet, or is that
no? Honestly, it's like trying to herd cats. There's so many people on this committee.
Yeah.
We're trying to find a date that works for everybody. I will get with Ryan Ferrara and see if we can't pin down a date and get that out.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
I'll do that as soon as possible.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry, it's been kind of crazy. So.
Oh no, I totally get it. I'm always worried that I lost something or something slipped through the cracks. So.
Nope, you haven't missed anything.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Stacy.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Moving on to the library update, Brian.
Thanks, Steve. For our library update, I come with a confirmed date for our contractor to be on site. The licensed contractor, the electrician from Saugus, and the installers that are coming up from New Jersey are going to be on site at the end of next week to do the final installation that they have to do for the remaining inverters and the connections that need to be done from the solar array that's been installed on the roof down into the electrical room. I've confirmed with the electrical engineer of record and the commissioning agent that they will follow then so quickly behind to get their inspections and their commissioning complete at that point. Johnson Roberts, who's the architect, has the submission for our lead submission to go right subsequently after that. So that's all that remains there. We do have a car charger that we have some parts that are still on order. I check in with the town's electrician weekly to see if we can do any better on the delivery dates. He's still been going out to a lot of supply houses trying to find the, I believe it's a meter socket that he's looking for that ultimately serves the car charger. And hoping to get some answers out of him this week about when he's going to perform the work. All the infrastructure's in. That's the only piece that's missing at this point. So the hope is that we have a functioning solar array by the end of next week into the weekend. We might utilize some of the weekend hours so that we can have a power dump in the building, and we do not want to disrupt any of the operations of the library or any meetings that are happening. So we're coordinating with Sam to make sure that we're either in off hours or that nothing's scheduled in the conferences during the point where we're going to be installing some of the critical infrastructure in the panel.
So my only concern, once you do the power dump and install the inverters, sometimes when you reboot, things don't always, not
100%.
works.
Yep. It's my intention that before we do that type of power dump, if certain things are not on a UPS type of power backup, we'll make sure that we shut down computer systems manually, make sure that those go through a correct shutdown process. Then we'll do our cutover, turn them back on, and then we can manually turn the systems back on.
Perfect. Great. Any other questions on the library?
Yeah, quick question or statement, Brian. Just make certain you let Nancy know that you're bringing systems down.
Great. I thank you for the reminder.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Littleton High School roof update, Brian.
All right. So, unfortunately, we had to go through the rebid process on that, which Steve Mark has been very helpful with. So I appreciate that. But the latest update is we had the walkthrough last week, the second contractor walkthrough last week that Russo Bar hosted. That was more lightly intended than the first one, I'm assuming, because most of the contractors have already seen it once. They don't need to see it again. But bids are due tomorrow, and hopefully we still have a good amount of interest there because there's quite a few plan holders, and between the two walkthroughs, quite a few contractors have seen the job. So we're hoping to get some good bids in tomorrow.
Great. What time are the bids due? What, 2 o'clock?
2:30.
I believe. Yep.
2:30? Okay. So by the end of the day, we should understand how many respondents we got.
Yeah, I think, Brian, you're planning to be there. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for you. I will be there and take care of that if Brian's not there or whatever. And I can summarize those bid results and email PMBC tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Steve.
Anything else on the high school roof? And
That's it for now.
moving on to the big elephant in the room. The,
All right. Thank you. I'm gonna bug off, but thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
The senior center, Brian.
Not that big of an elephant yet, but it's
It's growing.
it's growing. Yes, yeah, it's been eating. So in the past couple of weeks since we've last met, there's been a lot of work done on the senior center design. We've actually really ramped up our involvement, and appreciate Mike Scaduto for sending me some of your comments on that estimate that we had. Commodore's got a good estimating team, and it was those type of feedback are really helpful, providing them some more feedback.
Yep.
So as we looked at it, we had a lot of money that we needed to cut out of this project. We were having some very, very high price per square foot coming back from our estimate with Commodore. We started cutting out some of the low hanging fruit. We started putting things into buckets by whether or not something needed to be presented to the director of the senior center about maybe if we needed to change any programming. We started looking into some of materials about what we could do for changing out to something more economy based. We also looked into some civil changes about where certain dirt could be located or relocated on site rather than trying to do any classifications of exports. I'm happy to say at this point, we're getting very close to a number that is within the appropriation with the town. I've asked for a meeting with the town financial department and Anthony to make sure that we have the appropriation that I was told and that they're comfortable with the numbers that we're providing. And I'll ask PMBC too if they want to attend that to make sure that everyone's on board and comfortable with the numbers that we're showing now so that we can proceed with the final designs of construction documents. We don't want to go too far over our skis and then have to peel back more design and therefore have to do a lot of redesign. So at this point, we haven't had to sacrifice any square footage. We're getting creative with packaging some alternates. The hope being that by the time we do get to a GMP, that cost per square foot has lessened a little bit, and that we're able to put them back in. We've had some meetings with Littleton Water and Littleton Light about some of the infrastructure that's being built on Shattuck Street. The sewer system's going to be coming down in the next couple of years. So we're exploring our options about tying the neighbor's property into that new sewer system, and in conjunction, maybe even using the neighbor's property as temporary facilities for the construction manager and the construction site manager during the construction to save the town some money there. Working with Littleton Light.
Space as well, right?
I'm sorry?
Space as well. You don't need a trailer on the site.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Working with Littleton Light regarding a transformer location. Their initial request was to be using the same transformer as the library and upgrading that transformer. After reviewing it and doing some analysis on that, that really was going to be very cost prohibitive to try to dig a lot of secondary lines from the library up to the senior center, especially with all the infrastructure we have in the driveway right now. There would have to be some relocating of duct banks that were just poured for the library. And we just found is that's going to be way too costly. So we're working with the town about ordering another transformer that would feed this senior center from the front on Shattuck Street, but also minimize the amount of trenching and concrete and ultimately the feeder lines that would be going into the job.
The size of the feeder line.
Yeah. It's a difference of maybe 100 to 200 feet, and then the line from the library was around 1,200 that because we had to come up and around the building in order to enter the electric room
with manholes.
Correct. Yep. So that's where we're at right now. We had a good meeting today. We're going to meet tomorrow. Bartlett, I'll send that to you tomorrow for 2:00 if you'd like to attend. Same to you, Bob. You guys everyone's welcome to attend. Where we're going through and kind of showing what we're presenting right now to get down to our number. Ultimately, our goal is within the next week or two, give LLB and the design team the full green flag to proceed with construction documents and put the pedal down and let's go. And let's get to a point where I'm engaging with pre-qualification for filed sub bids. Commodore's working with the design team about finiting this job and providing input on how construction is going to be as cheap as possible. And then we're going to do another estimate, probably in that construction CD 50, 60, 70 range. Have another milestone check, make sure that we're still comfortable with this number. And then we'll go put our filed subs out to bid, and Commodore will start, once the documents are complete, they will get all the non-filed sub bids, go out and get competitive bidding for that, and we will have our guaranteed maximum price.
I got a question, Brian, kind of thinking outside the box, maybe a little too much.
Sure.
Any thought about, since there's no grass on the slope by the library anyway, dumping some of that fill down that hill and building that up a little bit?
Yes, so the proposed, there's a few different options that we're thinking about for using some of the excess fill. One of which might be over in that area, another being stripping the ball field. I think I said this last meeting, was stripping the outfield of the loam that's out there, putting down some of the fill that we have, and then resurfacing the ball field. It just might be up another 6 inches from where it is right there. Keeping in mind that the sledding hill is very important to the town. We don't want to be able to take all of that away from everybody.
Right.
So that's also an option there. And if that is cost effective to strip the land, put in fill, put back loam, reseed and hydro seed, bring in some new dirt for infield, that still might be cheaper than hauling off, 1,000 cubic yards of fill to a disposal area.
Yeah, but how would that affect Parks and Rec?
We would have to set up a schedule and propose it to the town.
Yeah.
That would be I'm not sure the length of time that they would need in order to do that. Obviously, they would not be stripping it unless they would be putting that fill in immediately. I mean, this would be something that would need to be proposed, shown, approved, and sticking to the schedule to make sure that we're trying to not impact Parks and Rec as much as possible.
Yeah.
Brian, has anybody approached the highway department about stockpiling it down there?
It's on my to-do list, and what I need to also figure out is my understanding, and don't quote me this, is if the material stays on site where it is currently on the town hall parcel of land, then it does not need to be tested. And if it does get tested, or if it needs to be hauled off to another location, it needs to be tested, and that can expose some risk for what needs to happen with that soil if there are things that are found in that soil.
Yeah, I would suspect that that's a low risk, but it's a risk.
Yep.
Yep.
We did have some small geotech borings before we actually decided on that location for the building. It did show in those geographic borings that it's good dirt. There is a small layer of ash at a certain point down. What that is, we're not sure. We also only had a few samples, so we don't know to the extent of it throughout underneath the tennis courts.
Brian, when you come down the driveway on your right-hand side where the parking lot starts to go around, years and years ago, there used to be a incinerator on that level, and they probably dumped the ashes off of that incinerator into the ground there.
Good to know. Food for thought. Okay. I'll make sure
They used to they burned everything from the school at the time down there.
Gotcha. We need you at these meetings, Bob.
Yeah.
Point of history.
Yeah.
As our Littleton historian. Yeah.
How long ago was that, Bob?
Oh my God. I don't know how long. It was back when I was in elementary school.
Okay, we won't ask.
Brian, can I just ask, because I'm still kind of catching up on all these projects here. So what was the appropriation from the town for this originally? Like, what is it? What's the budget you're trying to stay within right now that you're shooting for?
Sure. So what I've been told is that $17 million has been appropriated for the design and construction of the senior center.
Okay.
So what I need to figure out, and what I've asked with town financing and town accountant, is that this dates back, Vertex and LLB were brought on 3 or 4 years ago to kind of do a space needs of the town hall. And so there has been some contracts that have been signed to determine what exactly the town needed. And then once it was determined that it was a senior center, there have been amendments subsequently for both firms that have kind of morphed into, we'll call it the senior center project. And so I want to make sure that 17 million that's been appropriated, I want to know at what point does the senior center project start for the town, and when did the other previous studies, are those taken care of out of another bucket? Because that will ultimately affect the total project budget as we see it right now.
Okay, all right, that's yeah, that's good to know. And how does so with Park and Rec being in the old library, does the Indian Hill building affect is that an opportunity anywhere? It seems like there's a new building with a pretty low investment, which is kind of what I thought that was the elephant in the room, was figuring out if that's a feasible thing to figure out who's going where. So like, does anyone have any thoughts on that?
So I don't have any contract with what we are talking about right now, but I do speak to Anthony every once in a while, and he did bring up the ask of the possibility of Vertex and LLB, who's the design team for the senior center, that he might be asking to review some of the studies that had been done for Indian Hill already. So that's as much information as I have.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Brian and Stacy, there's an open house this Saturday, and the Park and Rec will be showing off their possible new purchase, which is part of the special town meeting warrant articles happening next Wednesday.
Yeah, I plan to be there.
Right. Yeah, no, I was looking forward to that too. And I know there's just I personally think it's an awesome opportunity just to have that building there. It's needed considering the space needs that we have. But I think it brought to attention the Park and Rec being in a different location, and the location in comparison to the schools and to the library, and what's happening with the old library. And I obviously am not a part of any of those decisions that were made previously as to what we're doing with the old library, but I just didn't know if Indian Hill at all is something that, if there's a whole review as to what buildings and space we need and how things get reallocated, or if it's just we go with the plan that was set forth before that was even a part of the purchasing plan for the town.
Good questions.
Yeah. Yeah. What time is that open house? Is that 11?
10 to noon, sir.
What is it?
10 a.m. till noon, I believe.
Yeah, I have to go to the library and get my cookies at 11.
I'm not going to be between you and your cookies.
Steve and
Thank you,
Brian, a question. The feasibility study for the town hall, is the money coming out of the senior center project, or was that already bought and paid for?
That's my exact meeting that I'm asking for with town accounting and Anthony to make sure. So what I've been told from Steve Venuti is what has been paid to date and what the appropriation is, but I want to know what the town sees as their commitments to the senior center project, because I have all our signed amendments for both firms, but I want to know what the town's understanding is of those commitments for the senior center, and whether or not those other studies are already paid for from somewhere else.
So I still haven't heard from Anthony as to, I just need him to certify that or confirm that the schedule of values for Vertex is
and LLB, that I have them both on there.
Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing, Steve, is we've just received our first invoice from Commodore for their pre-construction. They're small dollars on how they proposed their pre-construction. Right. But ultimately, I will provide you with the executed contract with everyone's signature. Then that will come into our next schedule of values, so that you can see what's been signed to date, what's the commitment for every vendor, and then each month you'd see what is being billed against those line items per the invoices that we'll have the backup for.
Right. And you're going to provide that in one document.
Correct.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks.
And so that's the one I did show. So we'll just get the thumbs up from Anthony that he's good with the documents I provided today that are all signed by him. And then we can, I think it'll go a lot smoother.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
And do you guys know what the plan or what the decision ever was with the town hall, or is that kind of still something that's like in limbo as to what we're doing with that? Obviously, it's being used temporarily by Park and Rec, and town offices, but how long term is that? Does anybody know?
No.
Nobody knows?
No.
I think in speaking with the town administrator that a master plan is wanted by the town, and that his hopes is that, you know, that they're going to work on getting some direction on what they're going to do overall with that facility after.
After everyone moves out.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, I don't know that answers to any of those questions either, Stacy, but I'm glad you asked because I kind of have the same ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's some puzzle pieces that could be reviewed, like thinking outside the box as to see how things can be used effectively. I just don't know who is kind of would be taking the charge on making sure that we can take a step back to this new opportunity with Indian Hill. Because I know the space is clearly, the future space is needed. But yeah, so.
One thing I can offer is that even though we, LLB did a lot of needs studies in the town hall about the possibility of reusing the facility for the senior center and other departments, you know, that was still a pretty voluminous study that they put together, and it's the town's now because the town purchased it. So that, you know, if you guys want to see the documents that were done a few years ago about the existing building that ultimately led to new construction for the senior center, you know, maybe that can be used for, you know, other purposes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we'll get into that until we're assigned that task from the select board. So, any other questions?
Steve,
Yeah.
Stacy, have you seen the floor plans that are going to be at this open house at Indian Hill on Saturday?
You know, I
Because
have.
I've seen the floor plans or
Yep.
the suggested floor plans
Yep. I'm just pulling them up right
where
now.
the school department would be on the top floor.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then is Park and Rec already designed to be in there, or?
Yes. Yeah. From what I've heard and what I saw on the floor plans, Park and Rec, the teen center will be in the basement.
Yeah.
And the offices and programs and the school department and Park and Rec will share a reception area as you enter the building because, you know, to send them to the right places,
Right.
you know, so I
Yeah,
did see,
that's what I thought I saw was that Park and Rec was already
Yeah.
kind of designed to be in there, but
Yeah.
but since it's happened so quickly, that I think it seems like it's happened
Yeah.
quickly. That
well, I've been there so many times, and Park and Rec's lucky in a way that the teen center, because they have a pizza oven in the basement. So, you know, these teenagers will be able to have all the pizzas they want. I think, personally, I think they need it because right now, when you think about it, the senior center is taking away their tennis courts and their pickleball courts. So they need the space, if Park and Rec there, so they can build some to attach to be close to the ones that the high school has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't even know the space that is needed for the senior center because obviously you guys are so far along.
Well, they're taking well, everybody knows they're taking the tennis courts away.
Yes. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I think that the discussion or just the discussion that people are starting to figure out now that there's an open house and we're starting to understand what that building is going to be used for is it if the teen center is going to be moved further away from the schools where the majority of the kids need to have access to it, is there a reason for the teen center to stay in its current location or closer to those schools and the senior center see if that can be parked in Indian Hill somewhere? But again, those are very big questions, but
They're huge questions. Yeah.
So
It
anyway,
all depends upon the meeting.
moving along, since that's not part of our agenda, but it could have been part of member input. Well, any other comments or questions on the senior center? Member input, Bob?
I'm all set. Just one thing, Brian, I will not be available for Thursday afternoon meeting. If he's
No
still with
problem.
us.
you give me a call whenever you're available and I can, I'll give you kind of an update on how we're doing.
Okay, Thursday's
Bartlett,
golf day.
No,
Nice.
I'm fine, thanks.
Mike,
I'm okay.
Stacy?
I guess I'm good.
Okay, Brian?
I'm all set. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, the only thing that I've got is I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball. I need to put together a PMBC section for the annual report, which is due on the 15th. I think what I'll do is put a little, this weekend I'll put something together, send it out to everyone. If you have any comments, feel free to edit, comment on it, and then then I'll get it over to Diane. So the next meeting is February 22nd. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Bob,
Bob Rama, yes.
Bartlett,
Bartlett, RV, yes.
Mike,
Mike Scudetto, yes.
Stacy,
Stacy Scott, yes.
Brian,
Brian Pasquale, yes.
and Steve Moore, yes. Thanks for your time. Have a good weekend.
Night all.